Yes, we can hear you
Conference will
now.
now be recorded.
We can hear you now, Eva. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Okay. So I don't know whether you had started.
No, not yet. So just begin the introductions. I have not.
Okay, all right. So I'll switch on my camera a bit for introductions. So thank you very guys for logging in. My name is Eva Muluve. We are here today to provide the introductory training on mobile data capture, introduction to mobile data capture. So Civitra Research and Consulting works in different areas. One, we consult widely and have conducted monitoring and evaluation projects throughout most of the sub-Saharan African countries. And we are also a training and capacity building company. So thank you very much for enrolling in this and wanting to hear more about mobile data capture. So we are going to start off by introducing part of our team members. So I think Ron, you had already introduced yourself or not?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I said my name, yes.
All right, and then we have Vivian. If you could take a minute to introduce yourself, Vivian.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vivian Jokichege, the training coordinator for Civitra Research and Consulting. Thank you very much for being here with us this evening.
Okay, thank you, Vivian. Yes, so welcome again. So we are offering this as an introductory part to a more detailed course where we will be teaching programming and coding using KOBO and ODK. We'll talk about them shortly in this free training. And we are offering a discounted rate, bearing in mind that there's a lot of hardship in this period of the COVID pandemic, economic hardship, and therefore all our courses have been discounted. So instead of the normal 40,000, we will be offering the KOBO toolkit and COBOL and ODK programming full course at the rate of 25,000 shillings. We also are supposed to start another course this Friday, 28th, on data management and analysis using R. However, we've gotten quite a number of requests asking us to postpone from Friday because a couple of people are interested in joining, and therefore we are pushing that training to 8th to 14th of September. And the course is also 25,000 Kenya shillings for those who are interested, and it's a discounted rate from the normal 40,000 shillings. So feel free to also contact us, or in case you want further details on any of the courses we are offering, please feel free to email us on the email given below, info@civitraresearch.com, or call our course coordinator Vivian in case you have any other inquiries, or visit our website for further information and details. So I will get right onto it. So I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, so today we are going to be looking at an introduction to mobile data capture, as I've just said. And one of our, some of the objectives we're going to be looking at today is understanding what is mobile data collection, understanding why mobile data collection is important, especially in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are also going to be looking at a brief introduction just to how both Open Data Kit, or what we are calling ODK, and KOBO look like, what the data collection application themselves look like, and what the programming using these tools also looks like. And then we are also going to be sharing just a couple of tips on how you go about conducting mobile-based surveys, and what are some of the things you can while selecting an application for you to be able to use in your data collection. So KOBO and Open Data Kit are important mobile data collection tools for two major reasons. Why? They are very easy to program, and they do not need very technical expertise for you to be able to program them, and also because they are open source and therefore cheap and inexpensive to use. So that's why we picked on the two. So what is mobile data capture? What we mean by mobile data capture is just any form of electronic data capture or data collection or collation of information that utilizes mobile devices like just any phones, tablets, PDAs, and these could be high-end phones, smartphones, cheap phones, basic feature phones, depending on your needs. But any kind of mobile phone can be used to collect information and capture data. So why would you want to collect data on mobile phones? So one very important reason is because we have an explosive growth in the availability of mobile phones in all societies around us, and even like the most remote or the most poorest regions now, even in Africa and around the world, have access to mobile phones. And then it also reduces time and cost in the data collection processes. It has also increased speed in terms of collecting and collating information, and also offers platforms where there is more accuracy in the data collected. So when you look at the regime of where we collect data manually using, like, for example, paper questionnaires, we all know that they are prone to error. They are very dependent on the data collectors themselves, and therefore, for example, if the data collectors don't have good understanding of the tools, then the tools are prone to data entry error and a lot of bias also, like researcher bias. However, like when you're using electronic platforms, like mobile devices, then you're able to program some validation checks, some consistency checks within the data collection tools themselves, and therefore this increases accuracy. And you're also able, like, to limit what kind of information comes in to the tool, and also this reduces the amount of errors coming in through data entry and data collection. And then there's also real-time data transmission. So since data is going in directly into the devices and being submitted probably to a central server, that the type for data entry is reduced, and therefore data is able to be submitted very quickly as the person on the data management side of things or the researcher, you're able to see data, real-time data coming in, and also you're able to check the quality of the data coming in as the data is being collected. And therefore, that's one big advantage of using mobile data applications to collect data vis-a-vis other manual sorts of data collection like paper. And then the other advantage of using mobile data capture methods is also the ability to be able to capture additional features. For example, you can be able to collect audio information, you can be able to collect things like GPS coordinates, to do pictures, videos, you can be able to program your tools in multiple languages, and therefore they are more flexible, they are more versatile. And even in terms of the designs, you're able to design very complex features into the into the tools, and also you're able to put in some sort of like quality assurance checks from the data collection and the tool themselves, and therefore they are a big plus compared to other methods of data collection. The other reason why we use mobile data capture is also because, for example, in the context of the COVID pandemic, where person-to-person interaction is minimal, then if you're using mobile data capture, then it will really sort out this person-to-person interaction problem, and also you can be able to administer the tools without necessarily having enumerators, depending on context, and therefore it's also a big plus. And then you also have safer storage. You are also able to back up and do multiple backups on your data. Data can be easily stored when it's collected electronically. Data can be easily encrypted when it's collected electronically, and therefore in terms of security and storage, it's better than other methods. And also in terms of the data collection processes, it's more user-friendly, and you can be able to train even lay audiences or participants to be able to use these methods of data collection. So there are many reasons why. So this is just a picture showing, for example, when you're doing paper data collection, then there's a lot of headache in terms of how to transport, like who will do the data entry. There are a lot of like multiple points where you can have data errors coming in from data collection to data entry, and also there's less security in terms of storage and transmission of the data, and you are more prone to risking losing your data if people are in the field, for example. And also we always have this analog of the God ate my homework, so paper can be very easily destroyed, unlike electronic systems where when you collect the data, you can easily submit, reducing the risk of loss of data. So there are a couple of mobile data capture platforms out there, very, very many, and they evolve and develop very quickly. But some of the major platforms or applications that are used in the development sector include what we call TeamScope, and this runs on both Android and iOS systems, and it's mainly used for clinical and field research. It's web-based and it's also offline. It has offline capabilities, therefore you can be able to collect data either online or offline. However, it's a paid platform. We also have Redcar, which also is able to run on Android and iOS, and it's normally used for building electronic case report forms and managing databases. And it's a paid platform. However, they also have a few free licenses for nonprofit organizations, and you can be able to do data collection online and offline. We also have what we call Magpie, and this is also a mobile application that you can use to collect data, to program for you to be able to collect data. It also runs on Android and iOS. You can be able to do offline data entry too on Magpie. It also has an advantage of SMS capability. So you can be able to also send SMSs through the same application to your participants. It also has the advantage of interactive voice response that you can be able to use to program your tool in case you want like to do sort of like what we call a CASI or audio questionnaires. It's also, some of it is free if you want the free basic account. However, the free basics account are limited because there are some things that you can't do with them, and therefore you would need to pay for a pro license or enterprise plan for you to be able to get most of the features. And then we have Survey CTO, which is also commonly used, and this is this runs on an Android platform, and it uses Open Data Kit software, but has expanded to add some more features to it. to increase its scale, utility, and power. And it can also be used to do both online and offline data collection. However, the free basic accounts cannot do most of the complex surveys, and therefore you have to have a paid platform for you to be able to develop most of the features in Survey CTO. And then we also have ComCare, which runs on Android, and it's normally used in the humanitarian sector and medical sector for gathering data. You can be able to use it on web. You can also be able to collect data on it, offline or online. It also runs on Android, but has cost implications if you want to do complex surveys. However, all of these applications are good if you're just doing simple forms that don't require like very complex filters or logics. You can always use the free plans. But if you want to develop very complex or long tools, then you would need to pay for these applications. So we will be looking today at Open Data Kit or ODK and KOBO Toolbox. And as we said, one of the main reasons we selected this is because they are open source. So you don't have to worry about paying for them. Both of them can be used to do data collection offline, online. Both of them are do not need programming skills for you to be able to develop the forms, and they also have like three kinds of ways that you can use to develop questionnaires or forms with, which we will look at today. But the beauty about the both of these is that they are open source. KOBO Toolbox also runs on ODK. So as you have seen, or as I have mentioned before, Survey CTO runs on ODK. KOBO Toolbox also runs on ODK. So that's why like ODK is sort of like a very important programming mobile platform to learn, because once you learn how to program on ODK, then it's very easy for you to actually program on any other mobile application or platform. So yes, as we have said, these two, Open ODK and KOBO, are free, open source, and they allow for the programming of data collection on mobile phones. So we will look at the components of Open Data Kit, and this is basically the same because they are using, like KOBO is also using the platform for ODK to do this. So we have three main parts of ODK. One is what we call the ODK build, which is used to build the forms. And as I have mentioned, you can build the ODK forms in three main ways. One is using an online platform called ODK Build, and in KOBO, just using the KOBO Toolbox, where you basically like register an account online, you go online, you put in your questions, it guides you on how to enter your response options, and then you deploy your form and you're good to go. But as we have said, most of these are not very handy when it comes to developing very complex tools. The other method is what we call XML forms, and we also have XLS forms. So we will talk further about this, and this is basically what we will be training when it comes to the full course we are offering, how to build ODK forms and KOBO forms using the build platforms and also using XML and XLS. And then we have the other component, which is the ODK collect. So once you build your form, or once you design your form and you have your forms ready, the other part is what we call ODK collect, which is basically how you will gather your data now. This is like the part or the application phase part where the end user or the data collector will be using to answer the questions to the form or questionnaires that you have. So basically in ODK, it's called ODK collect, KOBO collect, it works in the same way. And then from ODK collect, once you have been able to complete your survey or questionnaires, then the next phase is submitting your data to a central server. And so the third component of this is the ODK aggregates, or any server where you will be transmitting your data to, whether it's the KOBO server or an ODK server, a Google server, or any other server. So basically, those are the three main components of this KOBO and ODK. So you need to build your form first, and then you go to the data collection application itself, and then you move to where you're storing your data or where your data is going after it's submitted. So there are several kinds of questions that could be designed using the tool. Just a minute. Okay, sorry about that. So there are various question types that can be used, that you can program using ODK and KOBO. So this is one kind of question that you can design using ODK and KOBO, and this is what we normally refer to as a single select question. So for example, if you are looking at a question where you just want one response, then you're able to do that by designing the question itself as a single select response question, and how it would come up to the end user is like how it's shown here on the screen. So the end user or the person collecting the data would only be able to select one response option at a time. And then the next one is, for example, a labeled multiple response question. So a labeled multiple response question means that, for example, you're able to do a multiple select, and you're able to see the labels for that question, and then you can tick whether it's a yes or a no, depending on how, as the programmer or as the researcher, you want the question to be displayed. So for example, if we had this question, have you experienced any of the following symptoms, then the first response would be headache, and the end user or the data collector would tick either yes or no, and then the other question, the other response option would be fever, cough, loss of taste, and the enumerator, data collector, or end user would keep ticking yes or no for any of the symptoms they're experiencing. So that's just an example of how a labeled multiple response question would look like on either ODK or KOBO. The other is the multiple response without labels. So this is the difference. So this first one, you're able to select yes or no for any of the labels given: headache, fever, cough, or loss of taste. And then this is a different version of doing multiple select questions on KOBO and ODK, and the respondent end user or whoever is collecting the data would be able to do will be able to select all the applicable options. So it's a different way of how KOBO or ODK would display multiple response questions based on how the programmer, you as the programmer, has programmed the question. And then we have other kinds of question types that can be designed in both ODK and KOBO. That includes date widgets, timestamps, GPS coordinates, string widgets. By string widgets, we mean it's a type-in. So, for example, if someone asks you the question, what is your name, you would need a space for you to be able to type your name. So that's a string widget. And then if you wanted to collect geopoint or geolocation codes, then ODK and KOBO are able to do that. If you want to collect date and timestamps, there are many ways of programming and displaying in different ways the date, time, and string widgets on ODK and KOBO. So we will do a brief overview of how to build forms on ODK and KOBO. So one of the ways, as we have said, there are three main ways. One is building it using XML forms. Another method is using XLS forms. And the other method is just going to ODK build or KOBO toolbox and designing forms, especially for simple forms. However, for complex forms, then we will need to design them in XML, and we will see the reasons why shortly when we look at how to do the simple forms using ODK build or KOBO toolbox. So this is how you would do it in KOBO. So the first thing is you would need to create an account. So when you search, like using Google search engine, you just search for KOBO toolbox. You will see their website, and you can come and create an account. And once you create an account and log in, it will give you a screen that like this one, where it's asking you whether you want to create a new form. And when you click on new, it would bring a box like this, and it asks you whether you want to build this form from scratch, whether you want to use an existing template by just updating an existing template. So that means, for example, if you had a form that you had already programmed and saved, and maybe the next form you want to build is very similar to what you had already created, then you do not need to begin from scratch, but rather you can update existing forms. And then the other two methods is what we are calling XLS and XML forms, and these we will show you how to do it when we get to the full course. So building from scratch using the simple methods we were saying about ODK build and the KOBO toolbox are very easy. Anyone can be able to do that. So the first thing, once you click on develop a new form, the first thing it will ask you is to give your form a name. And once you do that, you give your form a name, it will ask you for a couple of the description of the form. Probably you would want to put something like the purpose of that form, and then what sector you're in, which country, and then you click on create project. Once you click on create project, you can be able to do a couple of things. You can be able to put in your questions, start building immediately. So for example, the question I put here is, what is the date today? So once you do your question, there's a drop-down menu that comes up and asks you to define what type of question you want to assign for the particular question you just entered. Or so for example, in our context, what is the date today? Then you would be expected to select like what exactly is the type of question you want for this question you have put in here. So what is the date today is a dates type of question, and therefore you would want to click on date and time. So that means when it's displayed on the end user side of things, then it would come in as a date and time widget. If you wanted it to be like a type-in or a string, what we're calling string, then you would select something like ABC text. If you wanted time, if you wanted audio, if you wanted video, if you wanted like photos, so any kind of data type you want, then it's the KOBO toolbox helps you to select whichever kind of data type you want for the particular question you have typed. So let's look at another question. So for example, if you wanted to look at a question like, where do you currently reside? So I would select from the previous slide where we saw the data types. Maybe you would want it to be a select many if you want people to be able to select more than one place where they live, or you would use a single select if you wanted someone only to be able to select one place at a time. So depending on what you've selected, you can be able to give a couple of options, and this is where the other methods of programming come in. So for example, if I had 4 places or residences where I wanted to add in the tool, it would be very easy to add them using ODK or KOBO build, because then I will just keep adding on, clicking on this plus at the bottom where it says click to add another response. However, if I had 47 counties to add, then this would be really cumbersome to keep adding one at a time. So that's the beauty of using the other methods to build these platforms like ODK and KOBO, because then you are able to like copy paste the 47 counties in there on the XML or XLS form. So it's very easy instead of you clicking the add another response 47 times. So that's why like really learning how to do this using the other two methods is very important, so that you're able to be able to more quickly, more efficiently build this kind of tools. However, as we said, if you're doing very simple forms, then there's no problem. You can always use the KOBO toolbox or ODK build to create your forms. So the other thing that KOBO toolbox is able to help us with, and even ODK, is once you develop your form, you can be able to test and view or preview before you deploy. So you can be able to see, for example, the question we put in about what is the date. You can be able to see how it's being displayed, and this is how the end user will see it. And if you want to change it maybe to another data type or something, you can be able to do that before you deploy it. So it gives you the preview option, or being able to test and validate your form before you deploy your form. Once you make sure your form is ready for use, then you come and deploy your form. So deploying means now you're putting the form out there, it's complete, you want to share a link or something for people to be able to access it so that they can be able now to respond to the questions you were designing, or you want now to deploy so that the data collectors can be able to download it on ODK or KOBO Collect and be able to administer the questionnaires to the participants. So that's what we mean by deploy. And then we are also able to have a couple of options there. So once you deploy, or before you deploy, you want to ensure that your settings are, for example, for KOBO, it offers you the opportunity to deploy your phone online and offline, or online only, or online. So what this means is, if you deploy online and offline, it means people who have internet or no internet can be able to access the form. But if you deploy it online only, it means people must have internet for them to be able to reach or be able to connect to the form and answer whichever questions you had programmed. So once you have finished designing the form and you have deployed the form, the next thing is to have your data collectors or your end users get the form, so that now they're able to complete the survey or administer the survey. So basically, since we said KOBO Collect just runs on ODK software, the display or how they're displayed even on the ODK or on the Collect side of things are very, very similar. So for them, for the end user or for the data collector now to be able to see this form you have designed, then they must download the ODK and KOBO Collect application. And how you download that is you get it from Play Store. And as we said, KOBO and ODK can currently be used in smartphones that run on Android operating system. And unfortunately, the both of them at the moment are not available for iPhones and BlackBerry phones. So you must have an Android system or an Android phone for you to be able to access ODK and KOBO. So you just go to Play Store and you search, whether you're searching for KOBO or ODK Collect, and you can be able to install it on your smartphone. And then once you install once you install it on the smartphone or tablet or whatever device you're using, then you have to set the URL or rather the server, give the server name, so that the person, the end user or the data collector can be able to get the form that you just developed or designed. So how you do that? There are what we call general settings. Most of the ODK collects have this feature, and also the KOBO collect. It's just very similar. They look identical almost. The only difference is like at the very top here, the icon for ODK will be ODK, the icon for KOBO will be KOBO, but basically they look the same. So once you download the app into the phone, you have to go to general settings to be able to set the URL and the URL server link, so that the person using, the end user or the data collector, can be able to get the form that you designed. So once you go to general setting, there's a place there, a feature there called configure platform settings, and then you can be able to give the relevant URL, username and password. And once the end user or data collector sets this up, then they are able now to come and this is an example of how to set the URL. So they set the URL, and then there's a username and password, and then once they do that, they can be able to get form. So here where it's written get blank form, you're basically telling ODK collect or KOBO collect to go and try to find a created form or survey on the server URL that you have given. And then once they get the selected questionnaire, let's call it questionnaire or survey, then now they can be able to proceed and start data collection. So once you get the form, the next process is for you to be able to go and start collecting your data. So we have this setting called the fill blank form for both KOBO and ODK. So once you get your form from the server, now you can go to fill blank form. This is an example here of several forms built by ODK. So let's say if you wanted to now collect some responses on this form called new widgets, then you would click on this. If you wanted the sample form, you would click on that, and then it would open and tell you you're at the beginning of you are at the beginning of that particular survey, and then you will go ahead and start filling in the questions, and once you complete, you save your form, and once you save your form, you can go to send finalized forms here. This one circled here, send finalized form, and then when you click on send finalized form, you select any forms or data that you have collected and submit it to the server. So it's very easy to use data collect. It's very user friendly. It's very straightforward, even in terms of how it's named, because get blank form just means get whatever survey you're supposed to get from the server so that you can be able to administer it. And then fill blank form basically means start like filling or completing that survey. And once you finish it and save it, it will come under send finalized form, and you can be able to select and submit to the server whatever you have already completed. If it's not completed, it will normally be saved under edit saved forms. And if you want to delete a form or any data collected, you can always go to delete saved forms. So it's very easy and straightforward, and you can be able to use it. It doesn't need very technical knowledge to be able to use it. And then once you submit the data to the server, then you're good to go. And the beauty about this is, as people are collecting data, you can be able to see whatever data is coming in. You can be able to start looking at the quality of the data. In case there are any errors, you can be able to make timely decision on how to correct them. You can be able to feedback on the data collection process as soon as you can, because there's real-time data transmission. So the data is hosted on ODK aggregate server for ODK and KOBO servers, but these servers can also be hosted locally through any intranet server or cloud server. So depending on your needs. So in the full course, we will also be teaching this, how to set up your server and how to deploy your forms on the server and how to manage your data from the server, how, for example, to do Google spreadsheets for your data, also like how to look at dashboards from KOBO and things like those in the full course that we will be offering. So a couple of tips on what kind of platform to use when it comes to selection of mobile data capture platforms. So as we have said, there are very, very many out there in the market, but there are a couple of things that you need to look at first before you decide what kind of platform you want to use. And one of the first things you need to look at is the type of data you're collecting. So for example, if you're collecting audio data, if you're doing photos or images, if you're doing video, if you're doing quantitative data or qualitative data, if you want to collect GPS coordinates, then you have to look at what platform or application is able to handle the kind of data that you want to collect. So most of these applications, the mobile data capture applications, are very good for quantitative data collections, but they might be a bit limited in terms of qualitative data collections. However, because they are technology, then it's very fast moving. They are always like developing new things out there in the market. However, for now, most of the mobile data capture platforms are highly quantitative, and it might be a bit cumbersome for you to do qualitative data collection on them. And one of the reasons is just basically because it's very cumbersome for you to keep typing like many paragraphs using a phone. However, you can easily do audio recordings on the phones and things like those. But basically, most of the mobile data capture platforms are very quantitative data geared. And then the types of data collection technology you want to use. So for example, are you looking at using smartphones? Are you looking at just simple SMS-based questions that can run on even like basic feature phones instead of smartphones? Are you looking at voice, for example, things running on voice? So this would really determine what kind of platform you want to select for your data collection. And also internet connectivity and power, especially if the end users are doing this on their own, or if the data collectors or enumerators are the ones who are doing it, like do they have access to internet connectivity for them to be able to submit the data? If not, are there any backup strategies for you to be able to employ so that you can be able to get your data in a timely manner? Is there power infrastructure, because you need, for example, the smartphones have to run on power, and therefore they need to be charged. And if there is no power, can the phones you're procuring or tablets, can they be charged using solar power? Or what are the strategies you're employing for you to be able to have power backup strategies even before you start your data collection? And then the other thing you have to look at is also the cost. So you have to look at things like the cost of equipment, the cost of storage, depending on the server you use, the programming parts, like are you the one programming? Do you have the relevant programming skills, or do you want to hire a programmer for them to be able to program for you the tools? Many other costs before you decide on what kind of platform you want to. Is it a paid platform, a free platform? So those are the kind of things you need to consider before you select a platform for your data collection. The other thing is equipment. So basically, this is, for example, if you're not using data collectors and you're using the end users or participants who are not guided by someone who is trained, what kind of equipment do they have? So if your audience has maybe basic feature phones, then that means they cannot be able to download ODK because it only runs on Android. However, you can look out there and see whether there are other technologies that can be able to run on basic feature phones. So for example, if you're doing voice recordings and images, does your end user have an equipment that is good enough, and does it have enough space to be able to hold the video or images or audio recordings? Are you the one who is providing the equipment? If you're using, for example, data collectors, are you as the researcher the one providing this equipment, or do you expect the enumerators or data collectors to come with the equipment? And data storage, like where will your data be stored? Do you want to use the aggregate server? Do you want to host the data in your own server? If not, do you want to procure space somewhere in a server? So those are some of the equipment considerations you need to make before you select a platform. And then the other thing to do is also consider the lifespan of the technology that you invest in. So for example, if you're investing in equipment that you will keep using over time, then sometimes you will always say that cheap is expensive. You'd rather spend more and get good gadgets, because sometimes you would go for maybe cheap smartphones, and then maybe 1 year down the line they're phased out and you run into problems. Yeah, so like really looking at how long you will be using the equipment. Are you going to be using it on a regular basis? Will help you determine like the exact kind of technology to invest in. And also things like for example, if it's just a one-time off survey, probably do you want a paid platform? Do you want a free platform? If it's a long time kind of like you want to conduct several surveys frequently, what exactly do you want? Do you want a piece of technology that has SMS capability or not? Do you want pieces of technologies that have a dashboard or not? So all these like considerations have to be made before you select your relevant mobile data collection platform. And then you also have to consider things like stakeholder buy-in for the mobile data collection, especially if you're conducting research or data collection in community settings. So it's always good to think about your end user, where you're going to apply this technology, because sometimes you may end up investing and maybe due to other issues like cultural issues, you find that you may not be able to apply these technologies to your targeted participants. So it's always good to understand where are you going to administer these, for example, surveys. Do you think there will be buy-in when people collect information using technology or not? And if not, do you have any plans for sensitizing the communities before you invest even in the equipment and any technology, so that you don't end up investing in things that you will not eventually use? And then you also have to conduct training. So for example, if you're using data collectors, you have, of course, to conduct some sort of training even for the end users if you're not using any data collectors, so that they're able to orient themselves with the platforms and have a good understanding before they start using them. And also depending on their level of familiarity with technology, for some you may need to also like train them on technology use. For some you may just need to train them on the platform itself. And then have backup options available. So technology is good, but it's always good to have backup options just in case it fails. So it's very good to use technology, but it's also prone to damage or risk of getting lost and things like those. And therefore, always have a backup strategy. If, for example, you're sending field data collectors to the field, even if they are relying on mobile data collection platforms, it's always good for them probably to carry like paper backup questionnaires and things like those, just in case of anything going wrong. Then at least there are backup opportunities. And then when not to use mobile data capture methods. So in some contexts, it might not be necessary to use mobile data capture methods. And some of these contexts may include, for example, when you're collecting data that is very qualitative. So as we said, most of the mobile data capture applications are geared more towards quantitative data collection. And therefore, if you're having loads and loads of qualitative data, then they may not be the best choice for your data collection. And also, for example, if the people you're supposed to interview do not have access to mobile devices, and you don't have, and you're not in a capacity to provide the mobile devices, then mobile data capture methods may not work. And also, sometimes, for example, when you're looking at interviewing people, and it's likely that the results may be skewed because your target audiences may be facing like economic hardships where they cannot access the smartphones or the mobile devices, then it's advisable not to carry out mobile data collection. And then maybe in areas where there is no infrastructure to support the mobile data capture systems, then it might not be able to, you may not be able to apply the mobile data capture methods. So yes, I think we have talked about this. This was just an introductory session where we were just briefly going over what KOBO is, what ODK is, what mobile data capture is, and why it's important. And we feel that this course is very relevant, bearing in mind that for now, COVID is here with us, and it may take a while before the person-to-person interaction comes back to normal or normalizes. So more and more organizations, more and more companies, whether businesses, profit-making organizations, are leaning now towards collecting data using mobile phones or other electronic data capture methods. And it's therefore important for us to be well-versed and well-equipped with some of the tips on how to conduct this kind of data and how to do it, because I think if you have interacted with programmers at one point or another, you may know that they can be quite expensive. And so some of these things, if you can learn, then that's an investment on its own, because then instead of hiring programmers and relying on programmers to do this for you, then you can be able to adopt these skills and develop your own forms, develop your own surveys, and know how to do that. So that's why we are offering this full programming with ODK and KOBO. And as we said, it will be offered in mid-September. For those who are interested, please feel free to register with us. The course will take about 4 days, split in 24 hours, and it will cost 25,000, as we had mentioned earlier. So anyone who may be interested, please feel free to register for the full course, because we think this is very timely in this era where we are moving to becoming more tech savvy, implementing very many things that we used to do face-to-face online, and therefore it's very, very important and to develop these kind of skills. So thank you very much. So I open it up to any questions, clarifications that you may be having.
Thank you so much, Eva. That was very detailed and very good. And at least we have learned so much about how to use the mobile platforms to collect data. So far, I have looked at chat and there is no question for you on chat. So I guess if you have a question, just feel free and unmute yourself. Then you can ask. And we are here with our part of our team members is part in the training, so maybe we'll give him a chance to just say hello to everyone. He will be part of the team who is training in the use of our software. So Dan, if you're still here, just say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. This is Daniel Mwanga. I'm happy to join you, and very wonderful presentation from Eva, and I hope everybody has learned. And I'm looking forward to be meeting those who are interested in the art training. I think, yeah, we will get more details of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, so we just have a comment from Abdi Nasir who says he's very grateful and the training has been very useful to him. So if you are interested in taking up the full course that will be offered later in September, feel free and use the registration link that we have shared on email, and we will be able to meet you in class for a more detailed course, and you will be taken through the process of like a live example.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Just one quick question. Are you getting me?
Yes, go ahead and ask your question. We can hear you.
Yeah, sometimes when you upload the tool,
Can you move closer to your microphone? You're a bit, you're faint. Just move closer to your microphone. Yes.
Yeah, I hope that you are getting me right now.
Yeah, you're now.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Nasir, I greet you from Hargeisa, Somaliland. So just I have a question. There was a time that I met a challenge during the data collection. We just upload a tool. Then during that data collection, we have noticed that there was some errors for the tool. Then we have tried to update and add additional questions. And then by the time that you have added, it was a bit challenging to upload again and use the same tool that we have used in the previous days for the data collection. So is there a way that we can sort it out in case that we meet it again?
Okay, thanks, Ahmed, for the question. Sorry, you were breaking up a lot, but I think I had part of the question. So for some of the applications, for example, like in KOBO, when you're using KOBO, you can be able to deploy a form, a revised version of a form on an existing form. So you're able then to use the same form that you had deployed, including the new additions of the form. However, when it comes, for example, to ODK, you would be required to save the form under a different name, and therefore the data collectors may have to for example, download a revised version of the form, and then it also becomes cumbersome because now probably if data collection was already underway and you're having two different versions of forms, then you would have to merge those two data sets at the end of the day. So depending on the application or platform you are using, some applications become very complicated because they don't allow they don't take very well when you're making changes to already existing forms, and therefore every time you make a change, then you're expected to deploy a new form. So probably maybe that's one of the challenges you are facing. Maybe you made a change in a form and then you saved it using the same name that you had used with the old form, and therefore there was a conflict. But ODK is also moving to new versions, and it's updating itself every other time, and very soon we will be having a revised ODK where you can also be able to deploy changes on existing forms without necessarily having to rename them or have the data collectors download new versions of the electronic forms. So I hope I answered your question, Ahmed. So Dan and Ron, feel free to add in case of anything.
No, I think, Eva, you adequately responded to the question, so I have nothing else to add. Unless Dan wants to.
Okay, thank you very much, Arun and Eva. I have a question.
Yes, Mubarak.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to learn the ODK. It's very brief and also important. And I have a question about the actual data collection. For example, when we send the enumerators to do the actual data collection, normally they use a sample size, and we expect to have a good number. For example, 300 questionnaires for that assessment. So sometimes when we are using KOBO, we end up a situation where we don't have a complete sample size. So maybe they come up with 280 questionnaires instead of 300. That one, when you're using ODK, it's very simple. You can easily, yes, when they fill the form, but they could not able to submit the form. If you are using ODK, you can easily download the forms from the form. But if you are using KOBO, it's very difficult. So is there a way, if I have the data on the phone, which is already complete, but it's not able to submit or synchronize directly to a server, is it a way I can get that data from the phone if I'm using KOBO software?
Okay. So thank you very much. Dan, do you want to take that question?
I'm not sure if I understood the question clearly. Maybe you can just repeat if possible, kindly.
Mubarak, maybe you can repeat it.
Yes, my question is, now we are moving from ODK to KOBO, and we started to use KOBO software to do the actual data collection. So, for example, when we want to do an assessment, we came up with a sample size like 300. So we send the field, we send the enumerator to the field, and when they complete that collection, we noticed some gap, like they submitted 290 forms to a server, and they remained with 10 complete forms on the form. At that point, when I'm using KOBO, it's very difficult to download that forms from KOBO. But if I'm using ODK, I can easily connect the phone to the machine, laptop, and then I can get the files. So is there a way I can get the complete forms on the KOBO software? That's my question.
All right. Thank you, Mubarak. So Dan, I think the question is, for example, yeah, I think, did you get it now?
Is it about incomplete forms, like forms that are still in KOBO Collect, but were not submitted?
Yes. So I think it's sort of like the way, for example, ODK, you be able to remove the data from like a smartphone or a tablet and push it back to the server manually. So he's asking whether you can be able to do the same with KOBO.
Okay. I'm not so sure, but what I know is that, for example, if you have questionnaires or forms that are not completed and are still in the tablet, you can still extract them because they are just X forms that you can extract them just the normal way you extract using with ODK, because KOBO also creates a folder in your smartphone.
Hello, Dan.
Sorry, it seems like we lost him. But like Dan says, it's possible to get data from an incomplete form on your phone on the KOBO app if you're not able to submit it directly into the server. It will just take the same way where you would connect your phone. You can either connect it manually using a cable to your laptop, and then you just go into the folder where it is, and then you extract it. So it's nothing complicated. We would just show you how to do it. Oh, Dan is back. Okay.
Yeah,
Dan,
sorry, my internet was not very stable. But what I was saying is that the same way you extract data from the tablet from using ODK is exactly the same way you do with KOBO. Because KOBO also creates a folder in your smartphone or in your tablet where the data is stored, and therefore you can just go directly to that folder and extract, because it will be an XML form which you can now convert it to whichever. You can push it back to the server and download.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mubarak. So any other question or comment?
Yeah. Again, I'm back. This is also Abdul Nasir. Just right now, I think just the way that we are going to share this a training that we are going to share the challenge that we have met. It's a lessons learned. Yeah. So there was a time, sometime back, we have been collecting a data of the ODK. Then it was a bit difficult. It was a bit difficult to use two-stage sampling, like from district to settlement. So by the time that we were going to upload the settlements that we are going to collect the data, the tool gets too loud during the data collection. So is there a way that we can ease the data collection for that two-stage sampling? Thank you. Are you getting what I'm saying?
I heard something about sampling. I had, I'm not sure. I didn't hear
Yeah,
everything. Did you get it, Eva?
No, I
yeah,
also didn't hear correctly.
yeah. Let me come back.
Hmm?
By the time that we are going to collect the data from settlement level, we are
Mm-hmm.
using just two-stage sampling, yeah, but don't focus on the sampling methodology. But I was going to clarify what I'm going to say. By the time that we are going to collect settlement level, the tool, if we put the district and also the settlement names during the data collection, the tool get too loud. So the enumerators cannot use, it will take time to come out. So is there a way that we can ease and separate the settlement and the district for two different cities, and a way that we can upload both to use within the KOBO tool during the data collection? Is there a way? That's what I'm going to say.
Did you guys hear his question?
Yeah, I think it's
If
possible.
I had,
Okay, go ahead, Eva, or then Dan.
No, I was saying I think it's possible, depending on how you have programmed the tool. So for example, if for example it was very huge and it had a lot of maybe like for example triple data that was making the tool very heavy, then one of the things you would require to do is probably split out the questionnaires to be two different questionnaires, each for one region or one cluster or one district, depending on your context. But there is also a way that you can make it possible through the filters and logics, such that people are able to see only what is relevant depending on how you've programmed it. So for example, in your context, if this particular person needs to see certain clusters, then they will only see those certain clusters if they select a prior question, maybe that is depending on maybe like a district or a location level kind of. So depending on the logic, how you program it there, then you can limit it from having, from everyone having to see all the clusters if they're making the tool heavy, but instead have a filter where you're filtering out clusters based on maybe a previous question, like either district or any kind of location. So it's very much possible.
and maybe just to add to what Eva said, one of the things that makes a tool to be very heavy, that even sometimes, for example, you may save and it takes even 5-10 minutes to save. It is the length of the questionnaire, and even more importantly is the level of validation and consistency checks you program in the tool. That can make, because every time you save the form, it tries to loop around and check all the consistencies are working, there are no errors and so on. So that may also make the tool to be very heavy. And so the only way to resolve that is maybe having a shorter questionnaire. Because I remember there's a time we were conducting a national survey, and it was the questionnaire was very long, and sometimes the research assistants could take even 10 minutes to save the form because of the length of the questionnaire and the level of consistency checks we had programmed. So yeah, so maybe to answer your question, one way is to do what Eva's proposed, and the other way is to, if there are questions that you can try to shorten, then you can shorten the questionnaire.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Thank you.
Okay. And then the other question, I've seen Mubarak, you have sent a question here on chat. So he's asking, when we complete the submission of completed forms to the server, the KOBO server does a basic analysis for every question. Is it reliable or correct analysis, or we still need to clean the data and carry out the comprehensive analysis by using Excel and other softwares? So thank you, Mubarak, for that question. So yes, at that time, it's doing analysis based on raw data. So those are just like basic summaries, tentative statistics. So you need to still go further and do data cleaning before you release your results or something. So yes, just to answer to your question, yes, you need to go further, clean the data further, and conduct analysis on cleaned data because the summaries that are coming in through the platform are basically based on the raw data, which might not be clean at that point. The question, comments? Okay, handing it over to Ron.
Eva, I think you need to close the meeting, but thank you so much, Eva, for spending time today taking us through mobile data capture. I want to assume that everyone has learned something today, and so for anyone who is interested in taking up this into a full training on how to program and just showing you the steps from the beginning to the end, feel free and be in touch with us. We have shared the telephone number through which you can be in touch with our training coordinator. And we have also shared our contact email, and most of you have received communication from our emails. So if you wish to register for any of the courses, feel free. A registration link has been shared on chat. It has also been shared with you on email. We will be glad to see you in one of our classes that is coming in future. So thank you everyone for coming, making time to be with us today. This now brings us to the end of our training. We are going to share this recording on our YouTube channel. So feel free, go online and follow us on YouTube, and we will be able to see this training. So everything will be uploaded online, and you can start looking at it maybe in the next 1 or 2 hours. It will be online, but we will share a link to the recording on email, and everyone can be able to access. So thank you and have a good evening. Ensure that you still follow the COVID-19 related guidelines of washing your hands, wearing your mask, and doing everything, practicing physical distancing, or what some people call social distancing, to ensure that we continue contributing to flattening the curve. So thank you and good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.